Welcome back to 365 Unlimited. We are back with another interview, as you can tell. Tonight we're going to be sitting down with Jaden Johnson, another 815 guy, in the building that we're excited to hear his story. Man, we sit here and we talk about these success stories we have in our hometown, Freeport, Illinois, and the small town surrounding areas, and it's special to be able to sit down with them. But before we dive into that conversation, check out our sponsors, Driftless Quality Wear, Bocker Auto Group, and Not Vintage. That is KNOT Vintage. You can check out their website. Our guy Joe has got a great thing going on with the graphic tee company brand. Things branching out, NIL stuff possibly coming. Stay tuned with that. But tap in with Not Vintage. Use the code 365U for 10% off. All right, Gannon, let's go.
Man, so we got another Freeport alumni on the pod here, Jaden Johnson, class 2019, a fellow peer of mine that we graduated, went through school with. Man, it's an honor to have you on. I know we're going to dive into a lot of stuff here, but man, just appreciate you for joining on. Just kind of tell everybody who Jaden Johnson is kind of as a person.
Yeah, first of all, thank you guys for having me on here. It's a real honor to be here too. But yeah, I'm Jaden. I run track at Illinois State University. I'm a hurdler. So as far as like sports and stuff, that's all I got going on. I'm a senior. I have one more year of eligibility, so I'll be returning for next year. But I'm studying psychology, trying to get this degree and do the best that I can in track at the same time and just get things done.
Got you for sure. I think something we always kind of introduce with, obviously, like Gannon loves to throw that question out there. Introduce yourself so people can get to know you more, just in a general sense. But talk about who you are as an athlete before we dive into who you are on a personal level. Who are you as an athlete? Talk a little bit about the route you had of high school sports and the lead up to where you're at now in college.
Yeah, I think it's really fitting that I'm a hurdler because I'm sure like many other athletes, I've conquered many hurdles to get to where I am today. There have been a lot of obstacles thrown my way, but again, the sport and once you have a desire for it, it really just pushes you to keep going. Um, yeah, I've just had a lot of unique situations that have happened. Like last year, I broke my collarbone hurdling and just trying to recover from certain things like that. Um, so it really motivates me to keep going. I started in sixth grade, started hurdles in sixth grade, and I actually hated them, but now I'm running track doing hurdles. So it's kind of just crazy to see that growth. Um, but yeah, I really enjoy what I do. Hurdles is something that's really technical. So if you're either doing it or you're not, like there's no in between. But it's perfect for me and I really enjoy it. So
Something I know I just thought about leading up to this podcast is just thinking back to our days going to school and all that. You've always had like Jaden's always showed up, and Jaden was that guy that had the smile on his face and the personality that kind of like show up and light up a room. And that's through my words. I know Jaden can attest for that himself, but that was something that you always had, Jaden, that I really admired you for school, track and field, just our social lives, our friend groups that are kind of intersecting growing up. How is that something that you kind of always had, or is that something that you just always made it a priority, kind of that you gotten older to just kind of because you do it, you just have the energy and the passion when you get in a room, and it's contagious. Just talk about that.
yeah, first of all, I really appreciate that. It's something that I think I've always had, but I've also even more than that had a desire to make other people feel important or heard or seen. That's just something that I crave and it's something that I try to do in any situation that I'm in. If it's a stranger, you never know. That smile could change somebody's day. It's just going to be the psychology part of me. But smiling, even if you're smiling to yourself, it releases chemicals in your brain that makes you automatically start to feel happier, like your mood just shifts. So just smiling and bringing a positive attitude is something that uh, a lot of people, I think, overlook, but it's something that I try to just implement in everything that I do. You never know what somebody's going through. You never know what they're going to go through. But if you can just leave like a mark or an impact on somebody, even if it's a stranger, again, it can go a long way. You never know. So that's something that I try to do. I uh, I've learned over time that just being nice and being a genuine person, because people we love to people need to be around people, and once you can see a person in front of you, you can usually see right through them. At least I can. Like we're good at reading people for the most part. And in that aspect, if you're being genuine with someone, they'll notice it and they'll take that and they'll run with it because it leaves a mark and an impression on them. So I just think smiling, just being a genuine person is something that I always strive to do.
100%. I mean, I love to hear that, just that whole bit right there, in a sense. Like, if we as human beings can understand that, not like forget the athlete part, like, forget
Hmm.
all of that for a second, and just completely understand that if we do smile, we do try to go out of our way for other people, even if we know them or not. It
Hmm.
makes us into a special person. It creates that positive impact in ourself. It makes our own self feel good. It feels good
Hmm.
in our own heart. So I'm glad you spoke on that, because I mean, especially younger kids nowadays, they need to hear that, because I mean, kids nowadays are growing up in such a different generation than what we
It's
grew up
crazy.
in. Kids not necessarily outside playing sports all the time. The discipline or lack thereof, discipline. I mean, it's there. It's to
Yeah.
be fair, it's there. So these kids need to hear these type of things. So you speaking on that is huge, man. I applaud you for that, because one, us as men, like, we've done a whole mental health series, and just for you to speak on that right there, like smiling, doing this, doing that, you could tell it's there. Like, having that as a man is crucial. But you talk
Right.
about being a hurdler and overcoming hurdles. Talk about how you face adversity head on. How do you, as a personal, in a personal way, how do you go about handling your own stuff, and maybe even helping out a friend or a family member?
Yeah. Um, I there's a very important aspect of growth that a lot of people overlook, and it's self-care. It's That's just something that's so critical and so important. You can't pour from an empty cup. And I've learned how to evolve my self-care routines and just what I do to take care of myself as I've gone through different adversities. So I kind of just have to pivot and like learn and change up what I'm doing. But generally it's the same base of what I'm doing. So I am a Christian. I do pray often. I go to church. I like God and Jesus is really incorporated into my life. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things, hands down. I'll just put that out there. Aside from that, just having a good support system and having people that are positive and are moving in a direction that you want to move into is also something that's really critical. If I want to have certain character traits, or I want to have just support in myself, I should be surrounding myself with others that reflect that, because you are the company that you keep. So that's something that I try to do, is just have a good support system, people that are positive. And if it's negative people, it's difficult to kind of just push them to the side. But sometimes you got to just keep it moving, because at the end of the day, when it comes to your goals and your aspirations, everybody's not going to be there to do those things for you. You have to find that strength in yourself to kind of do those things. But some of the adversities that I've faced, I've had a lot. We all have our own handful of adversities. I It's just been, I feel like just this college experience in general, just this time span, because it's so unique with COVID and just everything that's gone on. We've had just things thrown at us left and right. Um, and at the end of the day, I just stick to like that self-care, and it's unique to everybody. Everybody has to find their own way. And just having a good support system is what's really helped me get through my adversities.
For sure.
You touched on that. That was kind of going to be my next question. You talked about those 4 years and kind of just a big adversity. I think really a lump sum is really what it is, because we all are going to have that adversity with our 4 to 5 years, whatever it is, of college. But then to throw on the COVID and the other stuff that we can't control, it's just even more that we're dealing with as young men, and it's going to make us better in the long run. But
Mhm.
kind of talk about that jump from when you left Freeport to go to Bloomington, and that difference of the track and the grind and the
Man,
everyday. Because talk for some of these younger athletes, that are high school people turning in, that want to go play at the next level, no matter what sport or activity they want. Just talk about that grind and the scheduling, because it really is a full-time job. It really
yes,
is.
yes, it truly is a full-time job. It's a commitment. Um, I think I was a little oblivious to what I was getting myself into, and I think many athletes who are in college or who play at the college level could agree to that. Um, but my drive and what I wanted to do, it's still there, it's still here. It's just I didn't understand the time commitment that it would take. I didn't understand the sacrifices I'd have to make, such as kind of just letting friends know I can't do this. I have to study, I have to practice, I have to do this, this, and that. And that's another thing. Some people won't understand those things, and some people will not be able to
Yep.
see that you have a busier life and something else going on now. They want it to be about them at times. And those people you kind of just got to push to the side and keep moving, like I said earlier. But it's a time commitment. It is it's a time commitment. It's demanding physically and mentally, but at the same time, the work that you put in, that much of bigger of a reward is what comes out of it, because you can see the results and you can see the growth that you've had as you go through the years. Every single year, I've had a different main adversity that I faced, but again, just having like the community of my track team, because we're a really big team, the community of my track team, and just all of the other resources that they have available, I think is something that I was unaware of. Like in high school, you have like a training room and you have coaches and stuff, but in college, it's on a completely amplified level. You have access to training rooms when you can just get all these different ways of attention that you have towards you, and it's just a lot more. You just have a lot more going towards you, and that's because you're doing a lot more. So your body needs a lot more recovery. You need all these different things, and then just kind of getting an understanding of sleep. Oh my goodness, sleep is something that people in general, not even just athletes, but people do not take. Like, I don't know, I really don't know. People aren't getting it.
You're
But
Teach
right.
me
sleep
how
is
to
one of
sleep.
the,
Yeah, they
Teach
don't
oh my
me
take
how to
it.
goodness.
sleep.
Yeah, it's the small things, man. You're hitting all the small things. That's all you're
Like,
saying.
sleep is the biggest form of recovery, better than any form of workout you can do, any eating that you do. If you're not sleeping properly, your body's not going to get recovered well. You're not going to restore your muscles. And it's just finding a balance was the hardest part, I think, for me. But once I started to get in my groove, I picked up my friend group, I picked up my schedule, I got things. It became a little bit easier to navigate. But just, yeah, I think the biggest thing that I wasn't prepared for was just the time commitment. Because not only are you unavailable to do things that are scheduled for your sport, but you kind of have to push things to the side in preparation for the things you have scheduled for your sport.
Yeah.
So if I
Mhm.
don't have anything going on at 6 o'clock p.m., I know that I still have to eat and do my homework and blah, 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 like all these other things. And it's just, there's a
Never
time
ending.
commitment.
Never
But
ending.
we begin to like the busyness over time. I do, at least. Like, I like
Yeah.
having things to do now. Like on my summer breaks, I'm like, man, I have too much time. I don't know what
Yep.
I'm doing. But
No,
I'm like, I'm tailored to having that schedule now.
no, I feel the same way about that just because, like, first off, you could teach me how to sleep if you want. Gannon knows how messed up my sleep schedule is. I
Man,
mean,
I got you.
3 in the morning, and that's another topic. But besides that, like, the way you're explaining that, I think another clear way to mention it is like humans are really good or get to be really good at finding routines. Like once we
Yeah.
get in a routine, we get to be so comfortable, which there's a positive and a negative to that.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's a little different in your situation with being a college athlete. You get in your routine, your groove, and you're going to be more successful.
Hmm.
Uh, Obviously, in different situations, it could be a negative where we need to step outside our comfort zone sometimes and be uncomfortable with the uncomfortable. Uh,
Hmm.
but I like how you mentioned that because, yes, your schedule is demanding. I mean, I can only imagine. I'm not going to speak on it from personal level, but you, both of you, being athletes in here, Gannon and you, Jaden, like regardless of the level, D1, D2, JUCO, NAI, whatever it is,
They're
the level,
all
it's demanding.
demanding.
It's demanding. I'm loving talking about this, the personal side of you, but I want to ask you one athletic question because I have
Mhm.
no idea really how it works. I'm assuming things work relatively the same, but describe kind of the recruiting process to me
Yeah.
with track because obviously for me, I understand football, basketball, baseball, and coaches reaching out, and I know that part's probably very similar. But how do you go about? I mean, position. I mean, I just don't understand it. So
Mhm.
speak on it.
Yeah. So in track, it's a really individualized sport and team, but there's a lot of focus on just you as well. And your scores at meets get scored overall as a team, but there's still a lot of attention that's on just you and your events. Um, so in terms of like recruiting, my recruiting process was a little unique. I kind of reached out to my coach and I sent him a video, like my highlights, people do things like that. But then I think the biggest thing is just communication, because coaches, they're so busy, and just you have to just stay on them with things. You got to stay on them,
Mm-hmm.
keep emailing them, and just kind of like making your name familiar in their head. But for track, it's really not that different. When you're looking to recruit for track, it's event based. So people usually have like a dominant event that they are good at, and that's what you'll get recruited into. But then once you get here, you're going to be doing that event mainly. But sometimes if they see that you have potential to branch out and do a couple of other things, they might test you out and see what you're good at. I know I did uh, I did both. There's long and short hurdles in high school, and there's long and short hurdles in college. So in high school, the long hurdles, it's 300 meters, which is a straight curve and a straight. And in high school, it's 400, so it's all the way around the track. Um, when I came here, I was recruited as just a short hurler, but once they saw that I was capable of doing other things, they placed me into the long hurdles as well my junior year.
Mhm.
So there's kind of a lot of adaptability, and you can go between events and just do more things, I guess. But whatever they see that you're best at and what you're strongest at, they'll take those best attributes and apply them to other events too.
Okay. Again, and before you go, I want to piggyback off that real quick. So I was thinking about this when you're talking about an individualized sport. We haven't had the opportunity to kind of ask this question, but for individualized sports, because I played football, basketball, and baseball, so
It's
it was
different. It's a big difference.
so I want to ask you that. How do you go about kind of creating the team atmosphere and still having that, yet focusing on yourself and creating an individualized plan for success? How do you
Mm-hmm.
manipulate that to still have that bond, that brotherhood, that sisterhood, whatever it is? How do you
Mm-hmm.
create that still?
Yeah. So with track specifically, I think our team has over 120 people total. And men and women, we practice together and things like that. So there's a lot of different moving parts, and there are a lot of people to get to know. You probably won't know each individual on a personal level, but we do practice with our event groups. So for me personally, kind of like Gannon mentioned earlier, just it's just kind of how I am. I try to just reach out to each person and just, hey, how's your day going? Stuff like that. And those little things are what play into a big role. We do like team bondings. We try to just have people come over to our apartments and stuff like that. But there's this sense of healthy competition, emphasis on healthy, because that's what's critical to winning. Everybody wants to be better. Everybody wants to improve. Especially at this level, I feel like there's a lot more pressure on individual sports because it's like, if you don't do this, then you're not going to travel next time or you're not going to do this and that. But we all have a mutual understanding of that pressure. And I think that's kind of what helps us to keep a level head on our shoulders. Just being there for each other and saying, okay, this workout was rough. I'm really nervous for this event and just things like that. But it's just a mutual understanding of the struggle that you're experiencing together. Um, because at the end of the day, you're all a team, but just kind of just taking time to realize that the spotlight's on you for this brief moment. But ultimately, it's going to be working towards everybody. So it kind of takes off the pressure just a little bit.
No, I appreciate that insight. I was curious. I just didn't
Yeah,
know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little similar because I golfed in high school. Obviously, it's a lot smaller the number scheme, but the individualism of it during the
Mhm.
action, and then at the end, it's a team score. That's the hardest thing is your own individual stuff right now is not
Yeah.
only going to affect yourself, but also your team's reflection at the end. It's really hard concept. Me, completely, I need the team sports. Give me baseball. I was
Yeah.
not 4 years of golf. I love golf. Probably could have been better at it, but I didn't want to give the time and effort to it because I was always on my own. It was always on myself. It was
Mhm.
brutal. But I always got to ask this when we have a Freeport guy on the show, man. Just talk about your upbringing, living in Freeport, going through the Freeport schools. A lot of, choice words are said on however you want to say, but we went through it and we understood it all and we came out better men from it. So just talk about this and
Yeah.
just your Freeport experience.
Absolutely. I went to Freeport for my entire education before college. I was born and raised there, and I loved it. It was pretty diverse in some ways, but I think that it was a unique experience because we had different types of schools, private schools, public schools. I went to Freeport High School, which was a public school. It was like a mid-size school and everything. But my experience there was pretty good. Just coming out of Freeport, I feel like there's a lot of talent in Freeport in general that many people are unaware of. There are really big people that do come out of Freeport, and kind of just realizing that just because we're from a town that's kind of smaller doesn't mean that there are limits on us. And I think that's kind of what helped me. My dad really kind of threw that in our heads and kind of just really enforced that in us because I remember growing up, I think like middle school, early high school, I was just like, dang, this is Freeport. Like this is what we got. What am I gonna get out of this? And he just would kind of just be like, you're bigger than this. Like you're gonna have an impact on people. You're bigger than what you just see now. And that kind of motivated me just going through the rest of my high school career. I knew I wanted to study psychology from freshman year of high school. I just love people. So I feel like that kind of helped me with my interrelationships and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed myself. I liked the groups of friends that I made, and I just liked trying to reach out to everybody. But just coming here from Freeport, I feel like I did have a good basis to go off of, because just going from Freeport, I had a good basis. Sorry, I kind of just lost my train of thought, not gonna
You're
lie.
good.
Oh, you're all
um,
good.
but yeah, long story short, I had a really good upbringing, a good support system. My family was very supportive of everything that I did, which is kind of how I got going to college where I am now.
I like that. I like that because I mean, I'll speak on it for me. I went to Akron High School, the smaller school in Freeport. But for me, after post graduation at Akron, going to Highland, I tell this to a lot of people that I talk to, and I love my education at Akron. I love absolutely every part I had with it. But I'm gonna give all the credit in the world to the Freeport School District because the diversity, the inclusion, everything that's going on within that, it prepares you. You are entering the real world as a, what's the word I can use it as? Like, I guess it's just you're prepared, and
Mm-hmm.
you're prepared for different encounters. You're prepared for pretty much a lot of things that a lot of other schools can't give you, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I've always admired about Freeport. I've admired about my hometown, just having that there. It molds us into great people. And I was
The
blessed enough that I had the opportunity to play Freeport Six baseball, which helped me enough to be able to meet guys like Gannon, guys like Jack Heimer, Cam Bardell, all these this list of people on and on and on from Freeport, and that helped me a lot personally. But I love what you speak on with Freeport. It needs to be said by more people, so I applaud you for that. Um, let's talk the personal side. So let me in on some accomplishments here. I know you've had some accomplishments. I know you've been successful. I know you've done great things with your athletic career. And I know you're the person that wants to smile, be the light in the room, but let's get a little selfish here for a second. Let's
okay,
talk about it.
yeah. It's I've gotten better at saying some things about myself lately because I realized I need to do that too. But
Self-care, self-care.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But coming in, I came in. There was one other hurdler who came in with me, so it's just two freshman hurdlers for the most part. Um, but I came in, I think after like my fourth meet or so, I placed into the top 10. So we have like top 10 lists for our school. I placed into the top 10 for the hurdle events of all time. And then that's just kind of something that we go to track off of. Recently though, I placed all valley for conference in the 60-meter hurdles. I got third place overall.
Oh,
That's just scored out of a semifinal final. Thank you. Thank
Give the
you.
man his flowers. Give the man his flowers.
That was a really, really good feeling because in track we call them PRs, which is our personal
yeah.
record.
Hmm.
So you have like your fastest time that you ever run, and then obviously you want to try to beat that. And I hadn't PR'd since freshman year until my senior year because there was just a lot going on in between. But kind of just having that PR really was just like it was dangling above my head. But when I finally broke that, it was just like wow. Like I remember where I came from. I know that I'm capable of doing these things. So that was cool. I'm involved with a lot around campus. There's
Yeah, let's seize off. Yeah, talk to you about your other stuff here too, because I know you're just not a track
I
athlete.
want to hear it all. I want to hear it all.
yeah, I'm involved on campus. I do so there's something I'm kind of involved a lot with athletics too though. But there's something called SAC, which stands for Student Athlete Advisory Council. So it's basically like student council, but for the entire institution and all the athletes. And within that, I am the Missouri Valley representative. So there's one male and one female from each school in our conference, and we meet up and talk with the heads of the Missouri Valley just about making changes, improving on diversity, equity, inclusion, just a lot of topics, mental health, things like
Awesome.
that. Um, and within that, we just had a meeting a couple weekends ago. I suggested starting a mental health committee. So now I'm going to be ahead of the mental health committee for the conference just to keep that conversation going because it never needs to stop. It's always relevant. Um,
Gonna give me chills, man. That's you should be damn proud of that.
I told you this before the episode was going to happen, Bryce. I told you.
You
I
should
told you.
you seriously though, you should be damn proud of that. Be
Yeah.
damn proud of yourself for that because there's
Yeah.
not like that gives me chills, man, because there's not enough people out there that are even
That's
in
that was
that
gonna be
realm.
my
Right.
next question, man. It's
It's
just you got the mental health advocate in your Instagram profile.
Yeah.
I know you've gone through stuff in your earlier years at Illinois State. I don't know if you want to touch on that at all, but just talk about what that means being a mental health advocate because it is. It's 100%. There's too many people that just ignore this, man.
Yeah. I think it's especially important. Bryce, you kind of mentioned earlier about like being a man, and it's especially important for people to see a face like mine, I try to say, because I'm a minority and I'm a minority male, and I'm trying to advocate for mental health because not only in the Black community is mental health kind of just underappreciated, but also just as a male, it's really just brushed over. And I use the word advocate in my bio because it's something current, it's relevant, like it's constantly. If I could put advocating, I would do that, and it's because like I'm constantly pushing for it. I've had my own experiences that have made me realize the importance of it. I've always cared about mental health, and when people hear mental health, they often just think about like depression, anxiety, but it's so much, it goes so much more beyond that, especially within like athletics. There's so many things with like eating disorders and just a lot. There's so much going on. Um, but when I came into Illinois State University, I knew I wanted to be a psychology major. I just recently decided that I want to become a therapist for college athletes. So I want to work on a university and be a sports psychologist and help people improve their performance and stuff like that because of my own unique experiences I've had. In my junior year of high school, I had a friend who passed away, committed suicide, and that kind of sparked something in me. But then when I came to college, I made really good friends, and I had another friend here. The same thing happened with him, but this time around, it really just really sparked something in me. I was like, why does this keep happening? What is going on? Why is nothing changing? And it made me just realize that, especially in athletics, it's very, very under, it's like not put on the platform that it needs to be put on because we're expected as athletes to just perform and to just have this mental toughness and just, oh, shake it off, shake it off. But if my ankle's broken and I'm walking around, I mean, I can't walk around. Like I'm at practice, it's noticeable. But if I'm going through a depressive episode, I still can't practice because I don't have that in me. So just kind of trying to inform people on that. With my friend who passed away here at college, he was one of my best friends. When he passed away after that, with the student athlete council thing that I mentioned earlier, I organized a collective photo for all the student athletes to take a picture with
Saw
banners
that.
that say like you can talk to me and stuff like that. And then I made it an initiative for to reoccur each year. So this past year we did it again. We had a bigger turnout, and then people were coming up talking to me about like, wow, I really appreciate you for doing this. Like this is something that needs to happen. So hopefully that'll keep going each year. So I'm just trying to like have things that last longer than my time here at Illinois State because I feel like a lot of people can be simple minded with things like that. Like, I just want to do this about me, but I want things to happen and last. I don't want things to just happen while I'm here because the problems will still be here. Um, but so something like that, just having that collective unified photo really started conversations. And I think that's something that's really important in the athletic community. And just with my friends, with my family, like I'm always trying to kind of not pry, but just get people to talk a little bit more because I know there's a lot that goes on. And my own unique experiences have just made me view the world through a different lens. And it's like, why would I withhold information that's beneficial to everybody? It just seems not right. So I'm trying to help as many people as I can on my way.
Yeah, and I think people would be completely shocked that if they just sat down to have a conversation with people, you'd be shocked that if when you just listen, how much
Mhm.
actually just flows out. And that's something that we as humans need to get better at. Athlete, businessman, no matter if you're working a 9 to 5, who we are, no matter who we are, if we can get better just as people to listen and just sit there and be on the couch right next to that person and just let them talk, no matter if
Yeah.
like I think another thing that I just want to mention quick is our friends that we have are, or even just people, like when you share exciting news or like you have happiness going on within your life and you want to share that with someone, if someone takes the willingness to share that with you, like for example, Jaden commits to play or to go run track, if he tells you that, match that level of happiness that he has for it and give it back to him.
Yes.
That's something that we don't do enough, because if you, even if you don't care, like honestly, even if you don't care, just match the energy back and it makes that person feel good about themselves.
Yes.
And but what I want to touch on real quick is we talk about athletes and mental health. I think on top of that, the biggest issue with like that is performance. Like you discuss performance, like it takes everything out of you to let alone just perform and be successful. On top of that, you're dealing with schoolwork,
Mhm.
eating, sleeping, all of that, weight
When
training.
you missed it, you missed it right there when you said it's successful. It's the time that you're not successful, and that's the biggest thing with these
Yeah,
college athletes is when the coaches and everybody else turns a cold shoulder when you're not running your best
yeah,
60-yard
Yes.
dash, or you're not hitting your best batting practice, or you're not throwing the football the well that day. That's the biggest issue in the college
Yes.
athletics with the coaches, because there's either a coach that I've seen from experiences from other teams, my team, all that. There's either a coach that takes mental health awareness head on and makes it a factor in their team and their lives every single day, or a coach that sweeps it underneath the rug and doesn't do
Yes.
anything with it. That's the issue right now. We got two completely polar opposites, in my opinion, Jay, and I don't know what you think about it also, but it's exactly the issue. It's whenever anything isn't going good and the players aren't giving anything to the coaches or their teammates. That's when I
Hmm.
think that everything is that performance anxiety. Well, what's going to happen when coach or my teammate XYZ says this when I don't
yep.
perform well? That's the biggest thing that's making me upset and frustrated, because what are these coaches have learned? What have they done? They've failed and told their entire lives to get where they're at. Like, this is sports. Baseball, I play the biggest failure sport in the world, but then coaches are going to it. That's the biggest thing. I didn't want to
Yeah.
interrupt you, but that's just a point, man, that had to be out there, because it's either hot or cold and it's in and out, and it can't be that way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to touch on something real quick. If you don't mind, Bryce.
No, go ahead. It's all you. It's your show.
Um, um, that's so important. And something that I'm trying to work on with the mental health committee too is providing resources for coaches too, because now it's like a lot of the things that a lot of their either ignorance or just shortness with their athletes comes from another level. Like it's deeper levels. It's always deeper. So they are also doing a job that is very taxing and just a lot. So when they're coming at our athletes or coming at their athletes, sometimes it's not from the best headspace. So by providing resources for them and like
Mm.
showing that we care about their mental health too, it allows them to have a top-down system like that just flows more consistently. If they're better up here, then it's going to be better throughout the entirety of the team. But a lot of times that is lacking, and with student athletes, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure because now there's money on the line with scholarships. If
Mm-hmm.
I don't perform
Yep.
as well as I want to do, then maybe I won't get a scholarship. And how does that play a role in what apartment I want to sign for next year? How do I know how much money I'm going to get?
And
Like
it's
there's a lot.
NIL stuff now too.
NIL, yes,
Sponsorships.
NIL.
Even
There's a
more.
lot going on, and there's a lot to juggle. I think Illinois State, I don't remember if we were the first, but there was something with NIL to have like direct NIL representatives here. So we're pretty informed on like what it takes to get into NIL, and we have people that can kind of just monitor with that. But that was a side tangent. But just kind of having an understanding of what the coaches do, because I've started to have a new perspective of it. What we do and how we perform has a direct impact on what they're doing in their money and their lifestyle, their home. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're here away from all of their family. We become their family. And
Yep.
it's like that's why we kind of can bump heads sometimes because we're on each other all the time. And you expect these people to just know everything about you and know how to deal with your struggles, but they don't. And when they're informed and they're educated, it's gonna make the team just run so much better.
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean,
Mhm.
your coaches, teammates. I mean, it's brother
It's
sister.
all full circle, man. It's
It
all
is.
full circle.
But the last question I want to ask you before we wrap up here, and I'll let Gannon throw in his thoughts. But first off, I want to say thank you very much for hopping on here with us. You clearly are a light, that positive influence we need. You're, whether you see it or not, or realize it or not yet, man, you are making change. You are creating a wave. Positive influences. We need more like it. But I want to ask you, we asked this to a lot of people, but I think your answer is going to be even more special just on the way you talk, present yourself, and understand things as a whole. What's some advice for Gannon and myself? How can we become better at what we do with this show? How can we become better as humans in general?
First of all, I think what you guys are doing is amazing, and just you guys are in your bag right now, really. Like you guys are in it, and I feel like everything that you've done to get to this level has gotten you here for a reason. So hold on to some of those things that you've already had. Um, take the good with the good and the bad, learn from what didn't work and keep it moving. But as you guys get more of a following, more like just everything like just starts to increase, just remember and don't forget to just take time for yourself, because there's gonna be a lot of attention coming towards you guys. And there already is, but there's gonna be even more, because this is just, you guys are just doing great. But just remembering where you come from and why you started. Because sometimes when you get in the middle of everything, it's like, dang, do I still want to keep doing this? Like, what's going on? All the doubts can flood in. But remembering why you started, why you're passionate in the first place, just kind of reminding yourself, but also just taking time to do things for you. It's okay to have a moment to yourself too. And it's okay to put things on hold for a second while you regroup, because again, you can't pour from an empty cup. But yeah, just I want us all to keep supporting each other, because things like this, moments like this are really important. And I can't wait for other people to see that this interaction is even happening and that we're talking about what we're talking about, because you guys are doing a really great thing too. And by giving yourselves a platform to discuss difficult conversations and to just have people from the 815 and stuff come out here is just really important. And you guys are doing great things. So I'm really excited to see what you guys got.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, appreciate that. I know we got a little over a minute here. I'm going to try and wrap this up, make it quick. But you said it best, dude. There's 3 guys here from Freeport, Illinois, man. Like, you can't beat this. You can't beat where we're going and what you got going on, man. You gave all those kudos to us, man, but we're going to throw it right back to you, because you just listed off more than anything in 30 minutes that we've had from a guest, 21, 22-year-old guy, man. This is just awesome. It fires me up. I knew this was going to be good. I obviously knew the track stuff and everything else, but I wanted everybody else to hear everything else besides the track stuff, and you just did that and threw it out of the water, man. I'm proud of you. It's awesome to have you as a peer, somebody that we grew up, graduated with. It's just awesome. Best of luck to you, your success going forward, because I know you're only going to keep doing better and better, because you already have done that since the last 3 to 4 years since high school, man. Best of luck. Keep running hard, and appreciate you, man.
I appreciate it. This was fun, y'all. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you. Thank you very much for hopping on here with us. We will catch you guys soon.
All right. Take care.